And good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg. I am here with my co-host, Madison Delaney. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE, and our special guest tonight is Logan Petoskey. Logan is the voice of the High A affiliate for the Cleveland Guardians, the Lake County Captains. Logan, welcome to the show. Madison, how are you this evening?
We're hanging in. We're a little tired, but we're hanging in. I think the Browns videos from minicamp are helping power me through.
As always, Logan, how are you doing this evening? You got an off night from the ball game. We were talking earlier. Where are they again? Where's Lake County?
Yeah, doing well. Guys, thanks so much for having me on here. And so they're currently in Midland, Michigan. They're taking on the Great Lakes Loons. So they're the High A affiliate of the LA Dodgers, and they are just having one heck of a season. They're really distancing themselves in terms of the Midwest League. So this is a big time series for Lake County.
Well, that's fantastic. So now this is your first season with Lake County. Is that and I looked at your background. So tell us a little bit about your broadcast experience.
Yeah. So for me, I feel like you talk to quite a few broadcasters and they at least, got a little something in high school. I never really had anything in high school just because I was more so playing the sports when I was there. So I went to Kirtland High School. It's about a half hour east of Cleveland, very small school, but small but mighty, of course. And I played football, basketball, baseball there. But then I was kind of thinking, how can I stay in the realm of sports? Like, figured out kind of quickly wasn't going to be playing the sports. There's a very select few that get to do that, and they're amazing at all that they do. But I really enjoyed talking sports. I love to watch sports. I grew up a sports fan, born and raised, in the Northeast Ohio area. So many Browns, Guardians, Cavs games. I can't count how many that I've been able to watch and listen to. And when I did, just watching and listening to those, national broadcasts and everything like that, I loved that energy and excitement and enthusiasm that those bring to games, whether it be you're watching, you're listening on the radio, and they also get a front row seat to all these different games, and that kind of thing intrigued me, and I was like, this could be pretty interesting. So what I ultimately did was I attended John Carroll University, so Division III school, Northeast Ohio area, University Heights. I actually just graduated from there this past May, so actually for the last month and a half, it's been previous month and a half there to start the season. It was very, very busy because I was wrapping up my senior year of school, but I was also the voice of the captain. So it was a definite grind, very, very fun one though. So I ended up working in the John Carroll Sports Information Office all 4 years. So I was doing anything from broadcasting games, writing recaps, putting together game notes, videos, photos, you name it. There were so many different things. And then I was also, for my last 2 years, I was the sports director of the John Carroll radio station, WJCU. So if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, you can catch that 88.7 FM. So I was the voice of John Carroll football and John Carroll men's and women's basketball on the radio when I was the WJCU sports director. And then I also got to call plenty of live stream games for jcusports.com.
Wow, that is a heck of a background. Fantastic. I wish I would have gotten started a little bit earlier, like you did. But I've been there. I've done some of those things. Madison now, she is familiar with the D3. Madison, if you hadn't checked her background, she is a Randolph-Macon College graduate with her bachelor's.
That's right.
So you guys are D3 compadres.
Yeah, I always
Yellow Jackets, right?
What was that? Sorry, the dog moved.
Yellow Jackets, is that right?
Yes. They recently won a men's national for basketball. Yeah. Yep.
So very competitive sports there. Very competitive sports there, both there and at John Carroll, to be quite honest.
Yeah, football especially at John Carroll, I think.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So far in your young broadcasting career, whether it be at John Carroll or even for Lake County, um, what's been your best moment? What's been your worst moment?
That's a great question. I have to say my worst for me was just, the very first game I called for both football and baseball. So I only called one baseball game when I was at John Carroll. That was just because, I was just about to get the chance to really do so. COVID-19 hit, just a very unfortunate time. But then when I came back, I started calling men's and women's lacrosse at John Carroll. So I was able to learn a new sport there. But the only baseball game I ever called did not have a scorebook, had barely any like personal notes at my disposal. I was just kind of like relying on what our sports information office made. But learned very quickly, if you're doing baseball, you have got to keep score. That's my number one piece of advice for anyone who ever wants to broadcast baseball. Score the game. You keep up with everything. You can get a quick look back at, say, for if you ever were calling like a Cleveland Guardians game or something, you say Jose Ramirez is 0 for 3 with a fly out, a ground out, and a strikeout. If you're not keeping score, you're more than likely not going to know that. But that game kind of went as you'd expect. I think we got run rolled in that game too. That didn't really help either. But it was just kind of a tough spot. And then same kind of thing for the first football game I ever did. I was just looking at our big game notes packet that we had from our sports information office. I didn't have any type of like helpful things for like spotting players or those little personal notes that I can kind of like jot down, right before games. So again, that broadcast kind of went as you'd expect, but I did get to call that game with my older brother though, which that was a big plus. When I was at John Carroll, he actually went there too. He graduated last year, and his name's Luke, and he actually right now is a baseball information intern with the Cleveland Guardians. So it's actually kind of cool how I'm sort of with the captains, and I'm getting a glimpse at all these guys in high A, and he's at the major league level. So we're kind of helping each other out there.
Wow, that is fantastic. And yes, I will concur with you that being able to score a baseball game is such an important tool uh, for a beginning, an entry level broadcaster for sure. When you're not dealing with being at the ballpark, being at the highest level where they've got the score, an automated scorebook in front of you where you can track all these things. And then if something goes wrong with the automated scorebook, to be able to look at your own notes because you've been keeping it. I have been the victim of not having my stats in front of me early on in jobs and even just at other times where things go kablooey and I've got nothing. I've got absolutely nothing. So I always try and do my best. So I understand. I understand. So you're doing the Lake County Captains now. That is you are the man. And we were talking earlier. Right now, you're doing the home games. The home games mainly or only, correct?
Yeah. So for the time being, I'm doing every home game at Classic Auto Group Park in Eastlake. You can catch all of those. There's two ways you could do it. If you get the app, it's called Bally Live. It's a free app. I think all you have to do, to my knowledge, you like enter your name and your phone number, and then you can watch any MILB game for free on either your phone or on a tablet. You could also subscribe to MILB.TV. I think it's like $30 for the year or something like that. And then you can watch those like on any type of streaming device. It could be like a smart TV or whatever you have there. But those are the two ways that you're able to watch us. So for me, with the captains, it kind of started last year where I was actually a radio production intern and select on-air talent. So when I was at John Carroll, we actually had a 2-year online radio partnership. And through that, they had like John Carroll students, during the summer, they were able to help with the captain's broadcasts. And with that, this past season, I was able to produce games from the studio at John Carroll. I was eventually able to also go to games, provide color commentary. Towards the end of the season, I was able to do like play-by-play middle innings of games. Whenever we were at home, we'd kind of alternate, myself and another intern. We'd alternate between stadium, studio. But then when the team was on the road, we were just both in studio. Our broadcaster then was there at the road stadiums. But that was just an awesome opportunity just to understand what it really takes to put a professional broadcast together. And I mean, for my sake too, I guess you could say now, at least a handful of these players were here at some point last year, so I had some kind of knowledge going in. But that was just a very exciting opportunity there for sure, and I was just very thankful to have it. Something I also just going to touch on was because I think that for one of those previous question that you asked, it was like your worst and best moments. I realized I just touched on the worst. I do want to kind of get into the best a little bit here.
Sure.
3, yeah, why not? I started with a not so good, come back in with a good. In terms of the best, three jump out to me in particular.
Okay.
Firstly, end of the 2021 football season, it was John Carroll and Baldwin Wallace. John Carroll, Mount Union, I'd say is like, just because of how good Mount Union is, like perennial national champions, that's probably the biggest game of the year. But next in line is the Cuyahoga Gold Bowl. So we actually have a rivalry trophy for that, starting between us and Baldwin Wallace. So they're in Berea, literally steps from the Cleveland Browns training facility there. We were down by 18 points at the start of the fourth quarter. We came back with 19 unanswered in the final 11 and a half minutes. My childhood buddy was actually playing wide receiver for John Carroll. He actually caught the game tying touchdown with less than a minute to go. And it was just an unbelievable finish of a game. I just could not believe it. Another one for me is at this year during basketball season for men's basketball. Our sports information director, Joe Ginley at John Carroll, he presented me with the opportunity to have my dad join me as my color analyst for basketball broadcast. Now, he has absolutely no experience in broadcasting whatsoever. He's watched and listened to as many Cleveland games as much as the next Cleveland fan. But he was a little hesitant at first, but he was really glad that he did it. So was I. And that was just a day that I'll always get to look back on during my time as a Blue Streak. And then sure enough, the next game, I got to call the women's basketball game right after with my older brother, Luke, which is also very cool. Again, got to call a handful of games with him while at John Carroll. And then the last one was, I mentioned that John Carroll Mount Union rivalry in terms of football.
Right.
Basketball this year was really, really strong. They were both top 10 teams basically throughout the entire season on the men's side of things. They lost the first game in Alliance by 3. They come back here to University Heights. It was the only top 10 matchup that night, regardless of division, in terms of all of college basketball. So I had the pleasure to call it. It was a 2-point victory for John Carroll. Student section stormed the floor. I cannot tell you if I've ever seen the Tony DeCarlo Varsity Center more crowded than it was that night. It was literally standing room only. I mean, I could barely move in my broadcast setup on our one balcony. There were so many fans in there, but I was just so happy to call that. They got the win, and just an unbelievable game.
Wow, those are some great moments. I know that I was fortunate at some times when I was working at the radio station in Canton when I started up doing high school sports. My dad would come to football games, and he was my spotter, and he would come on the air sometime with me during, to do the color commentary and such. So I did get an opportunity to do that. But yeah, those are fantastic memories, and to be there for those big victories, Madison, from a player's perspective, to have, to see or to be a part of, or to have, people rushing the floor, that's a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah. At Randolph-Macon, I think we have a pretty good crowd and a variety of people. It's not just students. We also have, we have a great alum base, of course, but then you also just have, people, technically, I guess, still alums, but from, a while ago, to be kind to them. It was a while ago, but they are faithful and at every game. So, it's all great to have that kind of support especially at the D3 level.
Yeah, definitely. Now it sounds like Logan, they had you kind of cramped in there. I guess I should be pretty thankful, calling Randolph-Macon games and in other spots that I've been in pretty good press areas, whether it be on the floor or in a press box or whatever it is. Although the one time I went down to Louisville to call a high school game, and I'm trying to think who they were playing that night, but I get down there and the person was clueless that I was showing up, and they set me up in the bleachers, but which is what they normally do. But kind of, I'm like, all right, this is not off to a good start here when they should have known that I was coming. But I don't remember that or anything. We're gonna let that go. We're just gonna let that go at this point. So you've been around, obviously, Cleveland sports your whole life, but you listen to not only the local but the national. Who are your broadcast idols?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's quite a few. The ones that just come to mind immediately. In terms of like the national broadcasts, I love listening to Kevin Harlan call a game. He brings the enthusiasm, he brings the fun, the enjoyment, the excitement. He's definitely somebody that I've listened to over the years, and I just love what he does. And he does a great job calling the game too, obviously, but just the energy and enthusiasm. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the clip. I think it was a couple years ago where he was actually calling two games at once because there was like playoff implications for was like maybe like the Chiefs were in one game and like the Jets were in another. I can't remember who it was exactly, but you were seeing like that kind of split screen update on your screen, and he was calling that one because the other game was like about to kick off or something. It was unbelievable. Just the things like that, and just the high energy and excitement and fun that he brings. He's certainly one for sure. In terms of our area, I mean, you can name just about any of them. For me, Jim Donovan, Tom Hamilton, the late Fred McLeod, John Michael, currently doing TV for the Cavaliers. I mean, just so many people who have just done such a great job chronicling these years of Cleveland sports. I little young to really remember Joe Tate, but just from what I hear from everybody, he was just as good as they come, and he was calling Cavs games for so many years. But I mean, I feel like I could run down the list, but I feel like I would put Cleveland's broadcasters up against anyone in the country.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You are, I will say from my perspective as a Cleveland fan and Northeast Ohioan, growing up, and now I live in Richmond, Virginia, and you listen to national broadcasts of NFL games on your Sirius satellite radio, and you hear people in other areas, and you realize how great we have it and have had it in Cleveland for so long. Um, the beautiful thing about Joe Tate, who I idolized growing up, is that he painted the picture. He managed to get in advertisements as necessary, but you always knew what was going on. There wasn't a lot of yammer. That's the only problem with some of today's broadcasts, is that they are trying to cram in so much. And you hear Tom Hamilton, and I don't know, and I'll ask you this question in a moment, but this season, especially in baseball, with the changes to the rules, the pitch clock, and so on and so forth, has shortened the game up, and so the time to do live reads becomes a bit more challenging. How has that, if at all, impacted you?
Yeah, it definitely is a change of pace. And I did want to go back really quick on a lot of those broadcasters I've listened to over the years. I had to throw the other Division III guys that I know. Al Pulowski with the Cleveland Guardians. He's also a John Carroll grad, and Matt Underwood, who's the TV play-by-play, a Baldwin Wallace graduate. So I had to be sure to mention those two as well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the pace of the game, yeah, it sometimes gets very tricky. But I don't think, for my sake, I've necessarily been affected. But I have definitely been in spots where I'm like, okay, after say the second out of this half inning, to start the game, I'll run through the team's defense, and it just goes by so quick, I don't even notice almost. And then like during the break, I'm like, wait a minute, did I run through that defense? I said I was going to run through, and so then I had to kind of circle back and do it. But it it is a bit different. I do feel like at the major league level, they are starting to get used to it a little bit. It definitely took me a while too, just in terms of last year. But I feel like now, because last year, for Lake County's sake, they were working with the pitch clock and those pitch clock rules. I kind of got used to it. So like when I got started this year, I was used to seeing the pitch clock in, I think it's right center field, and uh, understand that perhaps even some of the pitchers are just having quicker deliveries, quicker routines because of the pitch clock. Like um, I remembered seeing the like first series for the Guardians, James Karinchak.
Yes.
I think it was opening day.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that he has a very structured routine in terms of how he prepares himself to pitch, and the timing was just not quite there at that point in time. And you saw that I think the Mariners hit a go-ahead home run. They ended up winning the game, but uh, yeah, I do think even from a broadcasting standpoint, I feel like maybe there is a point where some of it may get adjusted, or they try to like consolidate them or something, because some of these games, like the Captains just played one a couple of days ago against Great Lakes. It was under 2 hours for 9 innings. Just unbelievable.
Wow, that I guess from a fan's perspective, that is not necessarily a bad thing. Um, Sometimes baseball is definitely, I know there are purists who love sitting out at the ballpark for 3 hours. I think that today, the upcoming generations, the attention span is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. It's like we don't watch whole TV shows, we watch video clips, we watch this or that. And so it gets a little more difficult to be able to sit and follow. And it is definitely a literally and figuratively the change of pace. I think Karinchak, he had one of those like OCD routines. It's like, you got to touch your nose to the tip to the mouth, the whole thing there. Now, at the high A level, did they experiment with the robot umps there?
To my knowledge, they did not. I never saw any last season. Haven't seen any this year either. I believe it was AAA. I don't know if it's this year. I think last year they dabbled with it in AAA a little bit. I could be mistaken, but from what I remember, that was the case. But no, I have not seen those at the high A level.
Where do you stand on robot umpires?
I mean, just with just about anything, it is like a two-sided thing. Like there is still that human element to the game, and I kind of feel like that's what makes it a game. But then if you have the robot umps, I guess you could say, say it's a technically you might say, oh, it's programmed to specifically call a strike. But what if the technology breaks down? Then if that were to happen, then not sure where you go from there. But I could see both ways of it. Like there again is that human aspect where, there are, mistakes are made, it happens. And, it's kind of like the players are playing the game, there's humans playing the game. Like you feel like you probably should have humans calling the game as well. But if you look at that view of, say, the robo-ump side, you're thinking with the advanced technology that it may be a more accurately called game, but then you think of if there's any technological glitches or anything, then where do you go? So I am able to see both sides.
Yeah, a good point. Good point. I'm right there. I could kind of see it both ways as well. I know Madison and I we had this discussion. We've had this discussion before, talking about pitch clocks, robot umpires, and so on and so forth. How have the crowds been out at Lake County this season?
Yeah, I mean, crowds have been great. We've had so many different things go on. Like every Tuesday home game, we transform into Los Picantes de Lake County. So we wear like alternate uniforms. We have a hat that has a big chili pepper on it. It's really cool. So we have like, a Taco Tuesday kind of theme night. Then, I mean, pretty much every day of the week, we always have something unique in store. Like Wednesdays, we've had like wine Wednesdays where we have like different like local wines at the park. I see over there, Ethan, so looks like a wine connoisseur perhaps. But then I know like this coming Wednesday, we're going to have a senior day. So senior as in senior citizens, we're going to be playing at like 11 in the morning. So having that kind of day, have them out at the park, something like unique to have. Like next week, we're going to be having a random jersey night. So I know there's a Cleveland sports writer, Zach Meisel, who you see always tweets like hashtag random jersey sightings. So we're going to have the fans come out like random jerseys. It's just like a very exciting thing. And then like Fridays, summer home Fridays, we're going to have like Friday fireworks. We really had a big crowd for our first one of those a couple of weeks ago. And then every Sunday is a throwback Cleveland history Sunday. So like every so often we'll have like either like Cleveland media personalities or like former athletes, maybe current athletes, perhaps we'll see come to the park, and like the captains will wear throwback jerseys. They're like those 70s throwback red jerseys. They're really cool. I know this past week we had a few members of the Big Play podcast crew.
Yeah,
they
Nick
actually
Cardone
came
there.
out. That's right.
I saw that.
Yeah, Nick threw out a great first pitch, and then he and Reflog each for a half inning kind of joined me in the booth just to see what was going on. But there's so many awesome things that are going on at the ballpark. In fact, even to like bring in these great crowds, we actually in left field at Classic Auto Group Park just got put in this offseason. We have a 9-hole miniature golf course at the ballpark.
Nice.
In the outfield. I've never seen anything like it. But that's just another great thing to bring people out. If you have to get your golf fix in too, because I know especially this time of year, we Northeast Ohioans, we love the nice weather. We're trying to get out to golf whenever we can. Get golf and baseball at the same time. And then on Thursdays at home, we have a Bring Your Human Thursday. So we have dogs at the park who will bring their human companions to take in some baseball. So I've really enjoyed the energy and the crowds at Classic Auto Group Park this year, and looking forward to many more this year.
Well, that is fantastic. I guess Macon would be happy to take you to the ball game, right, Madison?
He would love it. And Gus is visiting for the week, my parents' dog, so they would both love to go to a game. I actually have a AAA game on my agenda for next week, so I do have that going on.
Who are you going to catch
next
week, Madison?
It's the Durham Bulls. I don't know who they play. We have a box. Company does, so I'm going for work, and I will gladly sit in the box with the air conditioning. Hopefully the smoke clears out, because that has been what we're dealing with this week. Because I don't know if you're dealing with it in Ohio. I think it's mostly New York and a little bit south. I know in Richmond you're probably getting it, but it's not been fun.
Along the East Coast, these past few days have just been really, really weird, and the temperature hasn't gotten up to where it normally is. It's been odd, it to say the least. So let me ask you this, Logan, from what you're seeing down at the high A level in Lake County, what should the Guardians fans be looking forward to? Are there any guys that are playing, on a daily basis that you say, I could see them moving up the ladder at a pretty good clip and can have an impact?
Yeah, I know for sure, especially me being a lifelong Guardians fan. I obviously getting to go to many a Lake County Captains game in my day. I'd want to know, all right, who could be up next potentially. So the Captains this year, we have had 2 call-ups so far up to AA Akron. One of them was actually earlier this week. He made his debut today for the Akron Rubber Ducks. I'll just start with those 2 real quick. Juan Brito, if you remember last season, or it was actually just after the season, the Guardians traded Nolan Jones to the Rockies.
Right.
And we ended up getting a young infielder named Juan Brito in return. He's a switch hitter. He was a mainstay leadoff guy for Lake County. He played 35 games with us and ended up hitting .265, so fairly decent average, and 4 homers, 14 RBIs, and nine doubles. So and he got on base a lot, nearly a 38% on base percentage. So he's somebody to really be on the lookout for. Again, he got called up to Akron a couple of weeks ago, and he's been doing fairly well. And then the next call up that we had was a couple days ago, actually, Will Dion. He's a left-handed starting pitcher. he made 9 appearances for us, 4 of which were starts. So at the high A level and really all the minor league levels, you kind of have that. You have more than 5 starting pitchers on your roster,
Right.
so you have what's called a piggyback pitcher, where they'll both get starter quality innings in terms of reps for the game. So say we'd have one starter pitch like 4 innings, the other guy pitches 4 or 5, depending on how it goes, and then maybe have another closer or something to close it out. A 1.87 ERA for him, 33 innings. Ended up striking out 41. He held hitters in his 9 games this year under 200 hitting. So he's somebody to really been a lookout for. He is a young left-hander. Usually a starter. In fact, actually, last year, Will Dion was named the Carolina League Pitcher of the Year in Single A for Lynchburg. So he actually got called up to Lake County later last season because of how good he was doing. And, we're certainly happy to see those two in Akron. We were wishing them nothing but the best and hoping they can maybe get up to the big leagues fairly soon. In terms of who's on the team right now, I think somebody who you maybe don't see him on your prospect lists right now, but into that top 30 fairly soon. And he's a young outfielder. His name is Jorge Burgos.
Okay.
He's hitting 241 in 41 games. 4 homers, 27 RBI. Those 27 RBI lead the team by 4. He's also walked 24 times. In fact, actually, this past series against Quad Cities, he ended up hitting 3 of his 4 home runs on the season. So he's had a very good stretch of baseball. The second of which he had 2 home runs 2 Tuesdays ago, and the second was a walk-off homer to deep right. It was just that was actually the first walk-off home run I've ever called, so it was a very exciting moment.
All right.
I think he's usually been a mainstay right fielder. He's started at least 30 games there, but he has kind of ventured over to left a little bit. But he's somebody with some good pop on his bat, and he's really been a pleasure to watch. I think I'd say in terms of pitching, somebody I'd maybe be on the lookout for next. I'm going to go with Ryan Webb. He's actually the reigning Midwest League Pitcher of the Week because this past week, he had arguably his best start of the season. It was certainly right up there. Career high 7 scoreless innings, struck out 8 hitters, which tied a season high. So he's also a left-hander. So I think that's somebody to take a look at as well. He's 2-2 this season, 3.45 ERA in 9 starts. He's thrown 47 innings and he struck out 47. So a strikeout an inning, I'd say, isn't too bad of an average. And then those would probably be like the main 2. I mean, you could also read Johnston in there. He's 4-2. He has a 4.02 ERA in 8 starts, 9 appearances. He's held opposing hitters to a 184 average in his 9 appearances this season. He's thrown just over 40 innings. He struck out 47 hitters. Those 47 strikeouts tied for a team lead with Ryan Webb. So those would really be, I think, the 2 main pitchers to look out for. And then if I had to throw one more hitter in there at the moment, because we do have a handful of top 30 guys in terms of MLB.com's list of top 30 Guardians prospects on our team right now. But another guy to look out for, again, not really in the rankings right now, but his name is Dian Frias. He's just 20 years old, usually playing third base. He's gotten some reps at shortstop, though. His first 35 games, hitting over 300. So a 302 hitter, 14 RBI, 5 doubles this season. Also drawn 21 walks. He actually had his first triple of the season a couple of games ago in this series. And his on-base percentage is over 41%. And so those, I think, would be like, if you gave me 2 hitters and 2 pitchers to take the look at right now, it's probably those 4 people. But we do have an abundance more talent on the team, too.
Wow. Hopefully some of those guys will be coming up the ranks and through the system here sooner rather than later. I guess my one question, you talked about some of their stats, some of the hitting stats. Are we going to get a power hitter? Can we find someone to knock it out of the ballpark?
Yeah. For right now, I would say Jorge Burgos this season has kind of supplied that power. Like, in fact, in our last series, like I said a bit earlier, so he had 3 home runs in our last series. The 3rd home run that he had, it was an absolute moonshot, and I mean that literally, to deep right field. So at our ballpark, we have like some grass just over the right field wall, and then way behind that right field, we have this big batting cages building. It's like fairly tall too. I'd have to probably say like at least 20 feet or so tall. I mean, if not taller. He hit one so hard, hit it. It was over 106 miles an hour off the bat. It hit the roof of those batting cages and then bounced over the batting cages. So I think he's somebody who can have that power potentially. And I mean, the average right now just over 240. So for a power hitter, that's really not too shabby. And I think it's going to only get better just the way if he keeps playing like he did this past series against Quad Cities. I do know like throughout the system, we have a couple of power guys, like guys last year who were captains who have moved up the ranks. I'm sure you've probably heard the name John Kenzie Noel. He's currently with Columbus.
Okay.
He really still is trying to work on that batting average and strikeout rate. He does strike out quite a bit, and the batting average, I know it's ventured right around 200 this year. But when that guy gets a hold of one, I'm telling you, the guy can hit it almost 470 feet, if not that much. He has that much power. He's 6'3", 250. He was with Lake County last year, and from last year with Lake County, the end of the season, he made it to Columbus. So he was really making a strong impression. But, you know, I mean, that's like another big power guy where last year in Lake County, I kid you not, you could ask my fellow intern from last year this and our broadcaster from last year. Any fly ball he hit at our stadium, we thought it was gone. He had that kind of power. So we're just hoping everything could come together for him. I would really like to see him make it up to the bigs because you're right. I mean, in terms of something that the Guardians could use, I believe, just looking around the league at other teams, it is a home run hitting league, and just that person who can give you the deep ball when you absolutely need it most.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate the farm system update. We're going to have to hit you up more as we go throughout the season here when we need to know what's going on and who to be looking forward to seeing in a Guardians uniform, hopefully in the near future. And let's take a look here on the not so out of town scoreboard, or, well, I guess it's out of town for me. It looks like the Gardos are up 3-1 in the sixth over the Red Sox. If they win today, can you believe they'll only be a game and a half behind Minnesota? Is that like, should you be cheering that, or should you just shake your head because the division is so bad?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at the division standings, I mean, that's really the big thing that matters, at least in this point in the season. I mean, you obviously want the record to be better. I'm sure if you asked any, Guardians member that, of course you want to be better, but if that's just how the circumstances are, it is a very long season. And I think we've tended to be a team, just from my perspective as a Guardians fan, just watching them for so many years, just the past few years, it kind of seems like April, May, you kind of start feeling things out a little bit. But when you make that turn to summer, like those summer months, June, July, August, we've really gotten it going. And even like after the All-Star break, you get into your full stride. Like last year, I really was after that All-Star break and down that, those last 2 or 3 series of the season, you really saw the whole team getting everything together and clinching the division. I think with the youngest team in baseball was just an unbelievable achievement. And you kind of think that's like a testament to that player development that we've had throughout the organization at every level. Because when you two have guys who are going from, I mean, if you look at somebody else too, for instance, if you know the starting pitcher Tanner Bybee, last year he started double-digit games with Lake County last season. That was last season. He was in high A and making his professional debut. Now he's pitching in the big leagues. Like it's just a true testament to how the Guardians organization has been able to take young talent and mold it into, talent that can make the playoffs. And I'm hoping that they can do the same when we get into this latter part of the season. I'm actually just taking a quick look at the scoreboard right now. 3-2. We're still leading. We are up by a run. We just allowed a solo home run, but the Guardians are in the lead now, and the captains right now against the Midwest League leading Loons. We're up 5-0 in the top of the 6th inning. So we're trying to make a statement tonight. 2 wins for, say, my team and my brother's team. That would be very nice.
Absolutely. All right, let me ask you one last Lake County question. Do you get to sample sample the food from all the vendors there? And if so, best food on the menu?
You know what? I've been in the press box so much, I haven't gotten to do too much myself, but from just looking at the options of what I would certainly get, Skipper's foot-long hot dog, the 12-inch long dog, is, I've heard, outstanding. We also have a helmet called the Gigante Picante, so like on Tuesday, Picantes de Lake County, so it's called the Gigante Picante Nacho helmet, so literally a baseball helmet filled with nachos. I mean, not much better than that. I will say the ice cream is good. How I got my sample of it was, so during our Tuesday home games, we usually have a couple of like a salsa eating contest, for that like Taco Tuesday kind of theme night. I was given some pretty hot salsa myself in the booth. And it was actually kind of a mixture of salsa and hot sauce. So I was like, you guys got to get me some ice cream here right now. So I was able to get some. It was like chocolate chunk, but that ice cream was delicious. So that's something I can testify to personally, but just seeing what all the fans are raving about, I would probably say those are the main two things: the Skipper's 12-inch long dog and the Gigante Picante Nacho helmet.
Excellent. All right. So thank you so much for all your Lake County knowledge here. So let's talk a little Northeast Ohio.
Sure.
Let's go nuCLEar, give some full-blown coverage of the land here. Madison, you hit on it earlier in the opening. Browns mandatory mini camp this week. What are your yeah? What was your what were your initial thoughts and impressions?
I mean, the offense seems to look good, right? Like that. I mean, it's a two-sided equation, right? Is it the offense looking good, defense looking bad? I mean, anytime you're going like 77 with no real pass rush, like it's hard to keep up with guys. But I mean, it sounds like Elijah Moore looks good. It sounds like DPJ looks good. The video clips that you get, they look good. There's some interesting, lineups going on the D line and some mix and matching. So I mean, it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I saw a couple things today on Twitter. Like, I'm a little worried about the DBs, and like I get it, but I'm also like that last position I think I'm worried about. Like, that's the position Andrew Berry's ever drafted as cornerback, and obviously we've had some questions at safety. I think that was a little bit Joe Woods potentially. So I am not worried about it, but it is a little bit in the back of your mind just as a Cleveland fan. Like, it looks good. It's summer. Does it really matter at this point? But, hey, let's get excited. Let's be happy.
So you're jumping on the hype train.
Of course. I always jump on the hype train. I will be against it up until I jump on it, and then we're all aboard.
All right. Good. What about you, Logan? Have you caught any of I know you've been busy, but have you managed to take some time, check out Twitter, read Cleveland.com, catch any highlights?
Yeah, I mean, I have been able to see some, more so on the offense than the defense. I like what Madison was saying. Like, I feel like with that 7-on-7 feel, with that mandatory minicamp kind of early stage of the offseason, you're going to get a better look at the offense. Like, your defense isn't necessarily going to be doing full-on pass rushing when you're not in full pads.
Right.
I will say, seeing a few of the deep balls that Deshaun Watson has been able to throw. You got a speedy receiver in Marquise Goodwin. Like, that's an Olympic track runner, like sprinter type speed that you've added to that offense to try to keep DBs guessing. Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones seem to look good. Now, I mean, very small sample size for me. I just, occasionally scroll through Twitter. You see a couple Browns highlights here and there. But from what I saw, those two look very good. And I think, to my knowledge, we didn't see too much of Amari Cooper at this stage. I think he's coming back from core muscle surgery. I'd have to take another look at that, but I believe that's the case. So, but I mean, he was over 1,000 yards last season with the Browns. So, I mean, he's just a mainstay presence there. But I know that question has come up with the whole DeAndre Hopkins situation. Are we going to go after him? Are we not? I mean, with a receiver that good, I feel like any team would want to have him, but it just all depends on what does the Browns front office ultimately think is best for the team, and whatever they think is, I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, good point there. Good point. And the clips have looked pretty convincingly good. And I've been listening to the guys all week talk about it and reading through Twitter and so on and so forth. And I try to have the tempered, low expectations and knowing that we've had other years where people have talked, oh, it looked good, it looked good, it looked good, and then it didn't look so good. And obviously last year was just a complete mess, just an utter disaster by all measurements, with the way things went with Deshaun Watson. So now we get the full off season with him. And yesterday afternoon, listening to Gerard Cherry and Emmett Golden on the Next Level, and they're talking about, and I think Andre Knott came in there and like grabbed the microphone from Gerard Cherry and was talking about just guys, you know, when you were with the Patriots, were guys dropping balls, were this, blah, 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 blah. So basically, I think the point he made was it should be a standard. You should expect to see these things. You should expect to see guys completing passes. And I really took that to heart because I think that I don't want this to be like a big, exciting thing. I want it to be the standard. And so that every year we know this team is coming in, they are good. And this is what they do. This is what good teams do. And I'd like to hope that this is a sign of things to come. Obviously, injury bugs are going to bite all the teams across the league, and you hope your team is not one that gets hit too hard. I mean, the AFC is loaded. We all know that it is going to be tough sledding just in our division alone, having to deal with Lamar and having to deal with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And then just for whatever reason, I think it's a psychological thing at this point. And Tomlin is a very good coach. You're still dealing with the Steelers. They're not just going to go away. A lot of people want to make fun of Kenny Pickett, but you know what? He came out and beat our rear ends in the season finale last year. So I got to give him credit where credit is due. And we'll see where that goes. If you didn't see it in the news today, Harrison Bryant signed a new 1-year deal, $1.75 million, worth up to $4 million with incentives. So that's good. I mean, I think he's done pretty well coming from Florida Atlantic. Tight end of the year. I think he's done all right. He's been a good complement to David Njoku, and now we've got Njoku, Harrison Bryant, and Akins, who's familiar with Deshaun Watson. So we'll see how that does. In the wide receiving core, Logan, you talked about the D-Hop thing, and it's looking more and more like that is not going to happen because I think he wants a lot more money than maybe he's worth. I think AB, it would be smart not to give him a whole boatload of cash. I don't want to see him getting an OBJ deal like they gave down in Baltimore. Give him something that's incentive laden and, have a prove it deal. What do you think, Madison?
I mean, we're the only ones that can really afford him probably at the price point he wants. And I mean, I do understand like the long-term implications of the cap, I guess. But if you signed him to like a 1-year deal, let's see how it works. I mean, we've granted done that with some players like Clowney before. It sort of panned out. We re-signed, didn't really pan out. But it's an interesting discussion because like how much do you want to bring in D-Hop versus develop a guy like Cedric Tillman who has impressed, I think, early on in like rookie minicamp and all of that. And will that stunt his growth potentially? But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is getting, a Super Bowl eventually. And do you get closer to that with D-Hop? I think you probably, and at some point you got to spend the money, right? It's like the Guardians that we talk about, right? At some point you got to spend the money and pay up at some point. So it'll be interesting to see if they do. I think they can. And if they want him, they will get him. It's just, how much do you want him? Right? And what kind of flexibility do you want going into the season where, maybe we have to make a trade at some point, make a move in a position not expecting right now. And do we want to keep that flexibility open or do we want to try to go for it and hope everybody stays healthy? So we'll see.
Right.
It'll a few weeks, maybe leading up to training camp. I heard he might hold out up until training camp. So it could be a fun couple months for us waiting for him.
Yeah, and I guess in the meantime, I'm not too worried about it. I feel like we've
Yeah.
got a great wide receiver room, especially compared to the past couple of years, or at least last year, because we've got Cooper coming back. He had a hell of a season last season, and part of that was in a kind of hampered offense with Brissett at quarterback. And the last 6 games, you got Watson coming back, not himself. And then he had the injury on top of that. I was fortunate. I got to see one of his best games when they were at Washington. That was awesome. And then you add the likes of Elijah Moore. He's definitely got some speed, like you talked about with Marquise Goodwin, Logan. An Olympic runner. I mean, that's amazing speed. I think we've got a lot to build on there, and Cedric Tillman is certainly intriguing. I just want to see the backside of Anthony Schwartz and someone just a little push out the door, because I'm tired of him. I'm tired of him.
Tweets?
I'm tired of his tweets. That's for darn sure. You got that right, coming on there trying to lure away Donovan Mitchell. What's up with that? You can't do that. Between that and his Man United takes, I'm not having it. Just not going to have that around here. But all right, I'm going to ask the question that everyone wants to know. Are the Bills going to be non-factors this year since Josh Allen is on the Madden cover? Logan first.
For just how he's done and just the well-rounded team they have, I'm not gonna say like they're gonna necessarily win the whole thing, but I think they're still gonna be deep in the playoffs. I'm still thinking that they're gonna have a great shot to win their division. Now, obviously, that AFC East gets a lot tougher now that a guy named Aaron Rodgers now enters the equation with, that you can kind of say revamped Jets team that had a fairly good showing. I mean, unfortunately, us Browns fans know it firsthand. I know we try not to talk about that one much, but just have to say it because it was the Jets. But I don't think the curse is going to get him. I know that there is that like supposed Madden cover curse where if you like go along the line, you can like see any like YouTube video that talks about it. It was either the player just never had that good of a season again, or they got injured or suspended, fined, or in the case of Michael Vick, he had to serve jail time. But there's just like, there's that stigma with the Madden cover, unfortunately, where it's like there is a kind of curse associated with it. I personally think Allen isn't too much affected. If there is anything that is like of the Madden curse, it'd be like, oh, he throws an interception in a playoff loss or something. Maybe that's the case.
All right, Madison, are we going Madden curse or not?
I want to say no, just because I really like the photo of him in the stands, like that cover. It's whatever version of it, I don't know exactly, but I think that's really cool, and I want him to do well, but not at the expense of the Browns, I guess is how I would put it. So like, let's have them make another AFC Championship appearance and fall to the Browns, I guess. But yeah, I don't know that I think like he'll have the injury part of the curse. Like I hope he doesn't. Obviously, you never hope for an injury, but not making the Super Bowl for sure. I hope that for the Browns' sake.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't want to believe that there is literally this Madden curse, but I don't know. You start looking at the data points. It's not so good. It's not so good, but that's fine. And you know what? I'm happy we don't have a player on the cover. I don't want to, because we'd be having that discussion. That discussion would be the talk of the town if one of our guys wasn't voted on there, a la Peyton Hillis. And he never was the same after he got on the Madden cover. We got kind of lucky. I mean, the fact that Eric Mangini was running the ball that much, and that was a horrible team, of course. But hey, we Browns fans, we come together when it's about voting, whether it be, do we have the best mascot, the best colors, the best fans, the this, the that, the other, we're going to win. That's what we Clevelanders do. We are ride or die fans here. And so yeah, we'll see what happens with the Browns here. We've got good stuff going on for the Guardians. I'm looking at the score. Looks like we're up 6-2 in the sixth now, so that's positive. That is definitely good. I hope we took advantage of a rookie left-hander for Boston. I don't even know who this guy, Matt Dermotti. I'm seeing the biggest thing I saw was people posting his political and viewpoints from tweets in the past. That was the biggest thing I gathered about him, and it's just crazy to me that that's what we're talking about with all these folks. You put out something believing something one way or the other, and you get crucified for it by one side or whichever the opposing side is. It's like I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where knowing the climate, it's important to watch what you say. And I think that's even tough. It makes it more difficult for people these days. And Logan, do you find yourself, being on the air? How difficult is it? And maybe you don't have time to do it. And I don't know if it ever crosses your mind, but yeah, often find yourself going, gosh, it's like, oh, I got to be careful how I say something because if I say it the wrong way, it could come across poorly, and cause an uproar.
Yeah, I mean, in society today, especially you have like social media and like so many, different outlets and things of that nature. Just as a broadcaster, you have to always assume that the mic is on. That's just something where, and myself, I've never had any issues with anything like that. Just trying to be, a kind person who's, just trying to have respect for everybody. And, if it's a sporting event, you just got to call it as you see it. Like, if, a big play happens, it's a big play. If it's not such a good play, it's as long, like, you just call it as you see it, that's just all there is. And, just everybody, just be nice to each other and just be kind, respect everybody. And, just go at it that way, just as long as you're doing that, there shouldn't be any issues.
I gotcha. Can't we all just get along? I think that was something that was before your time, Logan. That was a long time ago. The can't we all just get along? Now it's 7-2 Guardians, according to my update here. You mentioned that, and I wanted to ask this. I didn't want to forget about this. You mentioned where you can see and watch the minor league baseball, and it affects our Guardians as well. I believe I heard you mention Bally's. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is the latest there? Is with all the court case and stuff, are they going to pay up their money, or what's going to happen? Any ideas?
Yeah. Personally, I have zero idea. I just, I'm just following any news updates that just about anybody's getting. But again, just to like restate it, just in case you have any listeners who are joining a bit into the show, if you do want to watch just about all minor league baseball, particularly Lake County Captains baseball, you can get the free Bally Live app. I think all you do is like you put in your name and your phone number to like make an account, and you can have access to all of the Lake County Captains games for the season. You also can use MILB.TV, and you're able to, I think it's $30 for the year, but like, with MILB TV, you can like go back, replay previous games, that kind of thing. So those are the two ways to watch Captains. In terms of, I know there's like something going on with Bally, and I think it's like Diamond Sports Group, I think, is like who ultimately owns Bally, and just like something with them and some major league teams. But I personally have no idea what's going on.
Gotcha. All right. So we've done enough serious talk here. Let's tune it down here for a bit. I was thinking about this, and for whatever reason, I don't know about you guys, but I'm often reflecting and looking at things in retrospect. And I was wondering, put it out there. What is the best or worst advice you were ever given or received, or gave or received? Madison?
Logan, if you want to go first. Oh, I'll go first. Sure. I'll go first.
Sure.
So best advice I always have in my mind, because that's a question I like to ask people. And my answer is I had a AAU basketball coach who coached like 10, who is one of the most prolific high school basketball coaches probably in the country. Like he won, I think at one point 10, he might be at 11 now, state championships. Like he's unbelievable, coaches with USA basketball. And he told me to just make the pass. Like I'm a point guard. I was a passer. I would see people open, but I would hesitate. So I'm like, are they open? Are they not open? And he was like, just make the pass. And, you extend that out into life as we do with all sports analogy. It's like, whatever it is, like you just have to go for it and go for it full force. And like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you like gave your best effort. And so that has always been the best advice. Worst advice, I would really probably have to think about. I don't feel like I've gotten too much bad advice.
Have you ever given bad advice?
Have I given bad advice? Never. I am a great advice giver. I only give the best.
I believe you. For whatever reason, I believe you. Logan, best advice you ever got, whether it was from a broadcaster, a professor, a relative?
Yeah. You know what? Two things kind of come to mind, just more of a general thing. Just all throughout my years of college at John Carroll was just, just keep trying to network and make connections, just because you cannot believe. I've said it to just so many people where it's like, it almost seems like the further you go out, it's almost like sometimes the world gets smaller, because you just talk to someone and they know someone who was friends with your cousin's friend or something. And like, you just somehow make that connection and you just have absolutely no idea. That's just something that I've really been trying to use, during college and beyond. Something from a broadcast standpoint was, care for every game you call like it's the Super Bowl, because to somebody somewhere, that game is, it's very, very important. Like if you have, like, say you're, I don't know, you're calling a high school game for just like a regular season high school game or something, like it doesn't seem like it's on the big stage or anything, but you have the friends and family of everybody watching, and that game is very, very important to them. So you want to treat it that way. So that's what I try to do with every broadcast that I ever do. I know you were talking about worst advice, and I'm in the same boat as Madison here. I can't really think of any bad advice that I ever got, because if I ever got it, I probably didn't use it, and I'm not really thinking that I've gotten any. And I don't think I've ever given any bad advice. I mean, I always try to give my best. If it's ever just not the greatest, then maybe it's just something I don't know very well.
All right. Well, that's fair. I may have shared this recently, but I tried to use my faux pas as a youngster to guide my children and make sure they don't make the same errors that I made. And my advice to my middle school child, my son, he went to a school dance. I said, if a girl asks you to dance, do not say, "Do I know you?" That was the best advice I could give him. I hope that he remembers that one day, that if a young lady asks him to dance or somebody asks him to dance, he doesn't say, "Do I know you?" That would not be a good thing. All right. So another thing observationally that I see, and I'm just wondering, I want to give you some options here of the person who you would trust least given the situation. A health professional, whether it's a doctor or a nurse, who smokes. A dentist with bad teeth / smokes, or a fitness person, a trainer, a dietitian who's talking to you about exercise and diet habits, who they themselves are not fit. Who would you trust least of that group? Either one of you, whichever comes to mind first.
Trying to think. I mean, probably I would trust the medical professional. It's a little bit do as I say, not as I do, I guess. But like, I trust they have the knowledge to guide me, even if they don't follow it. And then maybe the fitness. I don't know. Maybe the fitness person. Because again, I don't know. Maybe the dentist. It's a hard one. That's a hard one. This is maybe the hardest one we've ever done on this show. It's a really hard conundrum we're in, I think. None of them would be my answer.
Hey, that's a fair answer. Logan, what about you? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that is very tricky just because everything seems so to the contrary of what you'd expect.
Exactly.
Right. So like that's what makes it so difficult. But I mean, if there's ever situations like that, I mean, I guess it's like, you don't want to judge a book by its cover, but it's yeah, I don't know if there's like one over the other, but that would just be very tricky. I mean, that's like the only thing I can come up with, just because that's a unique situation.
Yeah, I mean, I try, and the basis for this, it's the long-standing thought. But I drive by my office building in the morning, and I see these jabronis, and really not in the morning, but at like lunch. I'll be outside walking around, and I see these jabronis out there. They're all wearing their, they work in different doctors' offices and facilities and practices. I don't know exactly what they do, but I see them out there in their scrubs, and they're out there smoking away. And I'm thinking, really? You're trying to prescribe things and tell people what to do for their health, and you're doing the exact opposite. Plus, I would think you carry all that stank back in. I don't want to be around you as a patient, And then if I went to a dentist, though, who had rotted out teeth, that would be not a good sign. I'd be like, you're telling me to brush my teeth? You're telling me to do such and such? Yeah, you got to be kidding me, fool. I'm out. And then lastly, if I go to a trainer who wants me to follow a regimen, a diet, and they themselves, although they might have the knowledge, if they don't have, and there are definitely circumstances, but if it appears they don't have their own self-control, that doesn't bode well for them. Okay. So moving on, two things here. The first thing, I just want to let everyone know, coming up here, possibly next week, maybe the week after, we shall see. We are going to be bringing in a former player for the Canton Invaders indoor soccer team. His name is Kostas Skouras, and he is working on a reunion in Canton, Ohio, for Canton Invader fans. And they are having a planning meeting this weekend. I believe they had it today down in Canton. And unfortunately wasn't able to be there. But we're going to have him on to talk to everybody about what's going on. So for everyone out there who is listening, who was a Canton Invaders fan back in the day, I mean, that was some fantastic fun down at the Civic Center in downtown Canton. We are going to have him on to talk about what's going on with the reunion and just some of the history behind the Canton Invaders. And then the second thing is we're going to move on here. Logan, this is something we like to do every week here. We like to talk to everybody a little bit about something that's going on in our life that has us going nuclear. And I'm going to give Madison the floor. And then if you have something that has been making you go nuclear, you can feel free to share. If not, that is okay. So, Madison, what's got you going nuclear this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on Twitter this week, and I would be remiss not to call out the dude that threw me down in our adult league work basketball league championship game. He threw me down to the point that the front desk guy asked if there was like a problem, and I was like, honestly, it's fine. I was like, I flopped a little bit, but like, it's okay. Yeah, but like, he's not that good, like, I would give him a jump shot 10 out of 10 times, could never make it. But because of that, he wants, if I get switched on him, he's like, well, I'm going to post you up. But the basketball mind, like, I get it. It's not sure. I swim to get over. You don't need to shove me down. It's adult league. Like, I get that you never got the chance to play big time sports. You don't have to take it out on me. I'm not trying to get injured in an adult league game. Like, it does not mean that much to me. I played one quarter. I sat the rest because I did not want to deal with it. But yeah, it's just like, that makes it not fun for me when you like do stuff like that. But it did mean a lot to me that like probably like 8 out of the last 10 points we scored were all in his face. So for that, I am thankful. But the rest of it, I was going nuclear.
I imagine so. What you got to love the quote unquote weekend warriors, and I guess I'm in the league of out of shape dads that trying to relive our dreams and hopes and dreams. But, I guess the good thing is having my son, I'm going to play very careful against him or other, it's just, I don't know. There's a level of courtesy. There's just a level of courtesy and not taking things so seriously. Thank you very much, Madison. Logan, is there anything this week that has you going nuclear?
Yeah, nothing I don't think really has me like very upset or anything like that. Now, I don't know if there's like, a nuclear in a positive way and like a nuclear in a negative way, that kind of sense. But, I really don't have anything that's like really upsetting me right now. I would have to say, if there's anything of like concern, like I've just seen, over the past couple of days, I think we talked about it like earlier in the show here, just how like the Canada wildfires have just been like running rampant. Like the MLB has had to cancel games because I've seen like the pictures of Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. They're all bright orange. It almost looks like Mars. It's like something out of a movie. So certainly thoughts and prayers to everybody who's been like affected by that. But if there's anything in terms of if there's ever a going nuclear positive type of thing, there might be something going on right now because we're talking about, the score updates and everything happening. I'm looking at the Guardians score, and Jose Ramirez right now is not 1, not 2. He's got 3 home runs tonight. He's the first Cleveland player since Edwin Encarnacion in May of 2018 hit 3 home runs in a game. So if there's anything going nuclear, it's the baseball off of Jose Ramirez's bat 3 times tonight.
And
there you go. That's a good
that is, you know what, Logan? I love your positivity. I am I'm a broken man, so I've seen some things and had some experiences. I often find myself in that position where there's nowhere to outlet when you've just got something that infuriates you, and this is the time. This is the time and the place to do it here, and this week, what has me going nuclear is restaurant behavior by adults. We're not talking about kids. We're talking about grown adults here in a restaurant. So I go out with the family about a week or so ago, and we're sitting at a nice Italian restaurant, and it was, later in the evening. But this guy is there with like I believe his wife, and he's playing videos on his phone. He's got the sound blasting. It's not even like an attempt to respect the people around him. This guy's like holding it up and listening to this stuff. And I'm like, come on, man. You have got to be kidding me. Where is that sense of respect and courtesy to your fellow man? I guess that's what it comes down to. Am I asking too much when you're in a public place not to disturb everybody else? I know that when our kids were little, we were constantly trying to make sure that they weren't being disruptive to the other people around them. We knew it was kid behavior, but we weren't going to do that. And then this clown is sitting there with his phone jacked up to an 11, it's like, dude, really? This is how you behave? No wonder your kids are out of control. Come on, man. So that is what has me going nuclear. Logan, before we depart, tell everyone just so they can have it, and we'll repost it. But how can people follow you along with the Lake County Captains? Your Twitter handle?
Sure. Yeah. So mine is at Logan Petoskey. So my name on the bottom there, LOGANPOTOSKY. So that's myself. If you want to follow along on all things captains, our social media team has done a fantastic job this year. Creative content, video highlights, updates, you name it, they have it. At LC Captains. That's on Twitter and Instagram. So be sure to give them a follow, and you're going to be seeing some fantastic stuff about the Lake County Captains.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. Logan, want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure, and we definitely will have to have you back on. We'll talk more Lake County Captains, talk more Guardians, Browns, Cavs, etc. Madison, we got to start working on our hooping here. You know, I think we need to have that throwdown with the guys at Big Play.
I'm telling you, I'm ready. I said I was in the post. I got that double foul, so I earned it. I'm ready to go. 5'5" tall.
Absolutely. We're ready to throw down, Logan, with the folks over at Big Play. Always positive Jay and Kevin and 7, Kevin Arnold, out there on the court. Put me on the court and you're in trouble. Last week, well, I didn't pull a Nikola Jokic and get a triple double, or Jamal Murray for that matter. But anyway, again, thank you so much for being on Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can follow us on Twitter at Going nuCLEar CLE. You can go to our YouTube channel. Please like us and subscribe. Let your friends know. We're talking all things Cleveland, and hope to soon have on Costa Scoris talk to you about the Canton Invaders reunion. That should be a good time. And that is going to do it for us here on Going nuCLEar. Thank you again, Logan. Thank you, Madison. And everybody have a good night.